What if every second of your life has been measured by a lie? What if there exists an ancient text, hidden for 2,000 years, that exposes the cosmic deception governing your very heartbeat, and reveals the sacred calendar that could synchronize your soul with the rhythm of eternity itself? Oh, Nulo Moya Ishu Aroi Batai. By the end of this revelation, you will understand why the Book of Jubilees was deemed too dangerous for human eyes, why entire civilizations chose amnesia over its truths, and how you can reclaim the forbidden knowledge of time that transforms existence from chaos into divine harmony. Welcome, seeker of forgotten truths. You stand before a mystery that has haunted the shadows of human consciousness for millennia. In the ancient stone chambers of Ethiopian monasteries, protected by monks who have guarded this secret through wars, famines, and the rise and fall of empires, lies a book so revolutionary that the very foundations of organized religion trembled at its implication. Imagine walking through corridors where incense has burned for 1,000 years, past manuscripts written in languages that predate your civilization, until you reach a vault containing the most dangerous book ever preserved. The Book of Jubilees, whispered among initiates as Little Genesis, doesn't just challenge what you believe about biblical history. It shatters everything you think you know about the nature of time itself. Picture this moment. Tomorrow morning, instead of frantically checking your phone for the date, you look up at the sky and know, with the certainty of someone who has remembered a forgotten language, exactly where you are in the eternal dance of creation. The sun's position, the moon's phase, the very quality of light filtering through your window, all speaking to you in the sacred calendar that once governed human consciousness before we were cast into temporal exile. This isn't mystical fantasy. This is the promise contained within the pages of the most suppressed text in human history. You see, the Book of Jubilees declares something that will shake you to your core. Our modern calendar is a spiritual catastrophe. While humanity stumbles through irregular months, shifting festivals, and the chaos of artificial time zones, there exists a perfect system that aligns every breath you take with the cosmic order that governs angels. 364 days, exactly 52 weeks, 4 seasons of precisely 91 days each, every Sabbath falling on the same date throughout eternity, every festival perfectly aligned with celestial movements. Time itself becomes not a master that enslaves you, but a sacred river in which your soul learns to swim. But here's where the mystery deepens into something that will haunt your dreams. Why 52 weeks? Because this number resonates through the very fabric of reality like a frequency that existed before matter, before energy, before the first word was spoken into the void. When you live by this rhythm, you don't just organize your schedule, you synchronize your heartbeat with the pulse of creation itself. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church still follows fragments of this ancient wisdom. Their calendar contains 13 months, 12 months of 30 days, followed by a final month of 5 or 6 days that exists outside normal time, like a bridge between worlds. Could it be that in the highlands of Ethiopia, the last ember of humanity's true relationship with sacred time continues to burn? Have you ever wondered why certain days feel pregnant with possibility, while others feel hollow and mechanical? Why some mornings you wake with inexplicable joy, while others drain your soul before you even rise? The Book of Jubilees suggests that you're sensing echoes of the true calendar. your spirit recognizing the difference between sacred time and the artificial construct that has imprisoned human consciousness for centuries. But this is only the beginning of what this forbidden text reveals. According to Jubilees, angels weren't created as decorative additions to the cosmic story. They were fashioned on the very first day of creation as the primary architects of reality's infrastructure. These beings don't simply watch over humanity from a comfortable distance. They control every sunrise that graces your eyes, every moonrise that captures your wonder, every star that appears in tonight's darkness. Imagine celestial engineers whose sole purpose is maintaining the rhythm that keeps existence itself from dissolving into chaos. Every dawn you witness is choreographed by beings who understand the sacred mathematics that hold galaxies in their courses. Every sunset that moves your heart follows patterns established by intelligences that existed before time began. When ancient peoples spoke of reading signs in the heavens, they weren't being poetic. They were acknowledging a literal truth that modern humanity has forgotten. The sky above your head is a vast cosmic clock, and the angels are its eternal keepers. But here's where the Book of Jubilees transforms from fascinating history into prophecy that chills the blood. The text warns that humanity would abandon this perfect system, choosing to confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, by adopting lunar calendars that drift and shift like ships without anchors. Think about the anxiety that grips you when your schedule collapses, when appointments shift without warning, when time itself seems to work against your deepest need for rhythm and predictability. Jubilee suggests this isn't mere inconvenience. It's your soul crying out in recognition of its exile from the divine frequency that once governed human consciousness. We traded celestial precision for human approximation. We exchanged the calendar of angels for the convenience of emperors and merchants. And every time you check your phone for today's date, you witness the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. Humanity's fall from sacred time into temporal chaos. But the Book of Jubilees reveals something even more staggering about the origins of divine law itself. You were taught that the 10 Commandments represented humanity's first encounter with divine legislation. But Jubilees shatters this assumption with a revelation that will reconstruct your understanding of human origins. Adam received detailed commandments in the Garden of Eden itself, laws governing marriage, death, sacrifice, and purity that predate Moses by over 2 millennia. These weren't gentle suggestions from a benevolent creator. They were cosmic requirements, written on tablets of heavenly fire before the first star ignited in the darkness of space. Close your eyes and reimagine Eden, not as a simple garden where primitive humans learn to avoid forbidden fruit, but as humanity's first university, a cosmic academy where the curriculum was taught by beings of pure light and infinite wisdom. Picture this scene that will forever change how you understand human destiny. Angels of the presence, creatures whose very existence blazes with the knowledge of eternity, walking beside Adam through pathways where every flower, they weren't just showing him basic survival skills. They were revealing the fundamental laws that maintain harmony between heaven and earth. Sophisticated spiritual technologies that would ensure human consciousness remained aligned with divine purpose across all generations. Adam learned the proper burial of the dead, understanding that how you honor the departed affects the fabric of reality itself. He mastered sacred marriage ceremonies that transformed human union into a reflection of cosmic principles. He was taught ritual purification methods that maintained clear channels between his consciousness and the angelic realm. This knowledge wouldn't appear in human texts for thousands of years. Yet, according to Jubilees, it was humanity's original inheritance, the cosmic curriculum that was meant to guide our species from its first breath to its ultimate destiny. But here's something that will revolutionize your understanding of spiritual discipline. Adam was commanded to observe the Sabbath from his very first week of existence. This wasn't a later development, a religious innovation introduced by Moses to wandering tribes in the desert. It was humanity's original spiritual technology, a weekly reminder of our citizenship in the realm of angels. Picture Adam on that first Sabbath, perhaps sitting in the shade of the tree of life, feeling his human heartbeat gradually synchronize with the pulse of creation itself. For 24 hours, his consciousness aligned with the same rhythm observed by angels in the highest heavens. He experienced what mystics throughout history have called a taste of eternity, the state of being where time becomes not a river that carries you forward, but an ocean in which you float in perfect peace. This is why Sabbath breaking carries such devastating weight in ancient law. It's not merely disobedience to an arbitrary command. It's disconnection from the divine frequency that maintains spiritual coherence throughout the universe. Every true Sabbath you observe reconnects you to this original rhythm. Every moment of genuine rest aligns your spirit with the same cosmic pulse that Adam knew in Eden. But the angels taught Adam something even more profound about the sacred nature of human relationships. The marriage of Adam and Eve, according to Jubilees, wasn't simply the union of two lonely people in a vast garden. It was the first earthly enactment of cosmic law, the principle of sacred unity that governs all existence, from the dance of subatomic particles to the relationships between galaxies. The angels instructed Adam in specific protocols for marriage that went far beyond emotional bonding or physical attraction. These were spiritual technologies for maintaining harmony between masculine and feminine principles, ensuring that human reproduction would remain aligned with divine creativity rather than degenerating into mere biological function. Every couple throughout history who has experienced the sacred dimension of marriage, that sense of two souls becoming one while remaining mysteriously distinct, has tapped into these original protocols, whether consciously or unconsciously. But here's where modern readers often stumble over concepts that challenge contemporary sensibilities. The system of animal sacrifice that Adam learned wasn't primitive superstition or the invention of bloodthirsty religious leaders. According to Jubilees, it was precise spiritual technology for maintaining active communication between the physical and spiritual realms. The angels taught Adam the proper methods of offering burnt sacrifices, explaining that certain animals, when offered with specific intention and sacred protocol, could create bridges between dimensions. This wasn't mythology. It was applied metaphysics, the science of consciousness, operating across multiple levels of reality. Every sacrifice was a communication protocol, a method of sending messages from earth to heaven, using the universal language of transformed matter and sacred intention. The altar wasn't just a stone platform. It was an interdimensional transmitter, precisely tuned to frequencies that angelic beings could receive and decode. This is why sacrificial systems appeared independently in cultures across the globe. Humanity retained genetic memory of these original instructions, even when the specific protocols were forgotten or corrupted by human limitation. When Adam and Eve violated the one prohibition in Eden, They weren't just breaking a simple rule about dietary choices. They were severing humanity's direct connection to the angelic education system that had been designed to guide our species from innocence or experience to ultimate wisdom. The fall wasn't merely about guilt or punishment. It was educational catastrophe on a cosmic scale, the moment when humanity lost access to its designated teachers and was forced to navigate existence through trial and error, instinct and approximation, rather than direct instruction from beings who understood the blueprints. But here's something that will give you hope. In the midst of this ancient tragedy, divine law itself didn't disappear when humanity fell from grace. After Eden's gates closed forever, how did cosmic wisdom survive the descent into darkness? Jubilees reveals that Adam passed these heavenly teachings to his son Seth, who became not just his biological heir but his spiritual successor, the first keeper of righteous tradition in a world rapidly forgetting its divine origins. Picture Seth as humanity's first religious scholar, carefully preserving and transmitting the laws that angels had taught his father. Every evening, as shadows lengthened and stars appeared in the darkening sky, he would gather his children around fires that echoed the sacred flames of Eden, sharing stories of paradise, explaining the protocols for sacrifice, emphasizing the cosmos. This is how divine law survived a corruption of subsequent generations. It flowed like an underground river through the righteous lineage, from Seth to Enoch to Noah to Abraham. Each generation serving as living libraries of celestial wisdom in a world increasingly dominated by ignorance and rebellion. But with each passing generation, something precious was lost. The pure angelic instruction became filtered through human understanding, diluted by human limitations, complicated by circumstances that hadn't existed in Eden's perfect environment. Yet the essential core remained intact, waiting for the moment when heaven would attempt to restore the original educational relationship between angels and humanity. That moment came in the form of the greatest catastrophe and the greatest mercy in human history. But before we explore how the flood reset human civilization, you need to understand the cosmic war that made such drastic intervention necessary. What if the greatest disaster in human history wasn't the flood that destroyed the world, but the celestial rebellion that made such destruction inevitable? The Book of Jubilees unveils a war that raged in the heavenly realms while humanity went about its daily business, unaware that its designated teachers were about to become its greatest enemies. This wasn't a simple tale of fallen angels rebelling against divine authority. It was the story of how heaven's most trusted educators chose earthly pleasure over cosmic responsibility, transforming paradise into a nightmare from which only the most drastic intervention could provide rescue. Imagine heaven as a vast academy with earth as its newest, most promising campus. According to Jubilees, when humanity multiplied and spread across the planet in the days of Jared, the Most High commissioned 200 elite angels for humanity's most crucial educational mission in history. These weren't ordinary messengers or guardian spirits. They were called the Watchers, beings specifically chosen for their wisdom, their deep understanding of divine law, their proven ability to bridge the gap between celestial knowledge and human comprehension. Their mandate was crystal clear: descend to earth and instruct the children of men that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. Picture these magnificent beings descending from realms of pure light and infinite knowledge, their presence like walking encyclopedias of cosmic wisdom. They came not as conquerors, but as teachers, not as overlords, but as mentors, commissioned by the highest authority in existence to elevate human civilization through direct divine education. For a brief, shining period, Earth experienced something approaching Eden's golden age restored. Humans learned advanced agriculture directly from beings who understood the sacred relationship between soil and spirit. They mastered metallurgy from teachers who knew the hidden properties of every element. They studied astronomy from instructors who had witnessed the birth of stars. They practiced medicine guided by healers who understood the connection between physical symptoms and spiritual causes. Cities flourished with architecture that harmonized human habitation with cosmic principles. Knowledge expanded at rates that wouldn't be matched again until the modern era. Art and music achieved levels of beauty that seemed to channel heavenly inspiration directly into earthly creation. It seemed as though humanity might recover its lost connection to cosmic order without having to endure the long, painful process of rediscovering divine law through centuries of trial and error. But perfection, as history would prove again and again, remains fragile in a universe where free will governs the choices of both angels and humans. Here's where the story takes its most devastating turn, and here's what makes Jubilees' account so psychologically profound. The angels didn't fall through pride or direct rebellion against divine authority. They fell through attraction, the magnetic pull of earthly beauty and physical sensation that proved stronger than their loyalty to cosmic duty. Imagine beings of pure spirit, accustomed to the crystalline clarity and perfect order of heavenly realms, suddenly experiencing the intoxicating complexity of physical existence. The warmth of sunlight on skin that had never known temperature. The taste of earthly food after eons of sustaining themselves on pure knowledge. The overwhelming sensory richness of a material universe where every moment brought new textures, colors, sounds, and scents. But above all, they experienced something that would prove to be their ultimate downfall: the magnetic attraction to human beauty, particularly to the daughters of men whose physical form seemed to them like concentrated sunlight given human shape. The 200 watchers made a pact among themselves, binding their decision with mutual curses to ensure none would back down from their collective plan. They chose specific human women, the most beautiful daughters of men, and abandoned their heavenly posts to take them as wives, trading their cosmic citizenship for earthly passion. This wasn't individual moral failure. This was cosmic treason, the abandonment of sacred duty for personal gratification, the betrayal of humanity's educational needs for the sake of angelic desires that should never have been awakened. Heaven's designated teachers became Earth's first spiritual terrorists. But the angels' rebellion produced consequences far more catastrophic than personal corruption or educational abandonment. Their union with human women created hybrid offspring that combined the worst elements of both natures, beings who possessed fragments of angelic knowledge, wedded to human ambition, celestial power corrupted by earthly desires. Picture creatures standing 12 feet tall, possessing strength that could shatter stone and bend iron like clay, retaining enough of their father's cosmic knowledge to seem like gods to ordinary humans. But instead of using this power to continue humanity's education, they became its oppressors, establishing the first totalitarian kingdoms built on supernatural advantage. The Nephilim, as these hybrids were called, weren't content to live alongside humans as benevolent guardians or wise teachers. They established themselves as divine rulers, demanding worship and tribute, using their inherited knowledge not to enlighten, but to dominate, not to serve, but to exploit. They introduced warfare on a scale previously unknown to human experience, turning their fragmented angelic knowledge into weapons of mass destruction. Cities that had flourished under proper angelic instruction became battlegrounds where giant overlords competed for territory and slaves. What had been intended as humanity's elevation became its enslavement under the rule of cosmic abominations. According to Jubilees, when human victims became scarce, these giants began to devour one another, transforming the earth into a feeding ground where apex predators consumed everything smaller than themselves. The planet became an ecosystem of terror, where ordinary survival became virtually impossible. But the physical violence was only the surface manifestation of a deeper spiritual catastrophe. The fallen watchers didn't just produce monstrous children. They revealed cosmic secrets that humanity wasn't prepared to handle responsibly. One angel taught the forging of weapons that could kill more efficiently than anything previously imagined. Another revealed the properties of plants and minerals that could be used to create poisons and mind-altering drugs. Still others showed humans how to read celestial signs for purposes of divination, manipulation, and control over natural forces. This knowledge wasn't inherently evil, but it was catastrophically premature. Imagine giving nuclear technology to a civilization that hadn't yet developed ethical frameworks for its responsible use. The angels gave humanity cosmic fire without cosmic wisdom, power without the moral development necessary to wield it safely. The results were predictable and horrifying. Humans began using divine knowledge for earthly domination rather than spiritual elevation. Wars became more brutal as supernatural weapons entered human conflicts. Poisons enabled new forms of murder and assassination. Divination led to manipulation and psychological control, as those with access to celestial knowledge used it to exploit those without such advantages. Every secret revealed by the Watchers became a new source of human suffering. Technology without ethics became tyranny. Medicine without compassion became torture. Astronomy without humility became a tool for fate manipulation and social control. But not all of heaven remained silent during this unprecedented crisis. One human being managed to maintain his connection to the righteous angelic realm, even as the world around him descended into chaos. Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, described in ancient texts as the man who walked with God and was taken from earth without experiencing death. Enoch wasn't just a particularly righteous individual who got rewarded for good behavior. According to Jubilees, he became heaven's cosmic prosecutor, the one chosen to document the crimes of the fallen Watchers and serve as humanity's advocate in the greatest trial in the history of consciousness itself. Picture this extraordinary scene, a human being translated into heavenly realms, standing before the throne of ultimate justice, bearing witness to the systematic betrayal of humanity by its designated teachers. Through Enoch's testimony, the full scope of the Watchers' treason became clear to the cosmic court. They had violated their sacred oaths. They had corrupted their educational mission. They had produced abominations that terrorized the innocent. They had revealed secrets that endangered both human welfare and the stability of cosmic order itself. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was inevitable, but the sentence would be unlike anything previously imposed in the long history of angelic rebellion. The judgment pronounced through Enoch was swift, comprehensive, and terrifying in its finality. The fallen Watchers would be bound in regions of darkness until the final judgment at the end of time. Their Nephilim offspring would be destroyed without exception, though their spirits would become the demons that would plague humanity until the end of the age. The premature secrets they had revealed would be partially concealed again, forcing humanity to rediscover them through legitimate spiritual development rather than through cosmic shortcuts that bypassed moral growth. But the most dramatic response was the decision to cleanse the earth itself through flood, a cosmic reset button that would eliminate the corrupted genetic lines, destroy the totalitarian kingdoms, and give humanity a fresh start under new management. The flood wasn't just punishment for wickedness. It was mercy disguised as catastrophe, divine recognition that a world where giants devoured humans and angels had abandoned their posts couldn't be reformed through gradual measures. Sometimes love requires destruction, and wisdom demands that corrupted systems be completely rebuilt rather than merely repaired. Yet even in this moment of ultimate judgment, heaven's educational plan for humanity didn't end. It was transformed, refined, and entrusted to a new kind of teacher, one who combined human nature with absolute loyalty to divine law. As the waters rose and the corrupt world died beneath the waves, Noah stood on the deck of his ark, not just as a survivor, but as humanity's newly appointed dean of cosmic education. When Noah stepped from the ark onto ground purified by divine judgment, he wasn't just releasing animals and planting crops. According to Jubilees, he was re-establishing the educational covenant that had been corrupted since the Watchers' rebellion. The rainbow wasn't merely a promise about future floods. It was a cosmic seal confirming that heaven and earth were once again aligned in proper relationship. But here's what will astound you about Noah's post-flood role. He already knew the complete system of laws that would later be attributed to Moses. He observed the Sabbath not as a new invention, but as a recovered memory. He performed sacrifices according to protocols that had been established before the corruption began. He followed dietary restrictions and purity laws that reflected the original divine plan for human consciousness. Noah had preserved not just biological species in his ark, but the entire curriculum of cosmic education that the Watchers had been assigned to teach. While the world drowned in the consequences of angelic betrayal, the essential wisdom of heaven survived in the mind and heart of one faithful man. Every sacrifice Noah offered followed precise instructions that connected earth to heaven through channels of sacred smoke and transformed intention. Every festival he observed aligned human celebration with celestial rhythms that governed angelic worship. Every law he kept reflected the original order that had been designed to maintain harmony between physical and spiritual realms. But Noah's mission extended far beyond personal righteousness. He became the first post-flood link in a chain of transmission that would carry divine law through human history, until the moment came for its ultimate revelation through Moses at Mount Sinai. This brings us to the most staggering revelation in the Book of Jubilees, one that will completely transform your understanding of biblical history and the nature of divine law itself. Abraham didn't gradually reason his way to monotheism through philosophical reflection. Isaac wasn't just a promised child who represented divine faithfulness. Jacob didn't simply wrestle with an angel and receive a new name. According to Jubilees, these patriarchs were living by the complete Torah centuries before Moses ever climbed Mount Sinai. They weren't just men of faith. They were keepers of cosmic law, observing detailed commandments that wouldn't officially exist for generations. They were living by tomorrow's revelations while being guided by yesterday's heavenly tablets. Picture young Abraham growing up in Ur, surrounded by elaborate idol worship, watching his father craft false gods from stone and wood, while knowing in his heart that these lifeless objects had no connection to the true source of creation. But Abraham's rejection of idolatry wasn't based on philosophical reasoning alone. According to Jubilees, he received direct revelation of the laws written on heavenly tablets, the same cosmic constitution that had governed creation since its beginning. His destruction of his father's idol workshop wasn't teenage rebellion. It was informed revolution, the action of someone who had been given access to cosmic truth and couldn't remain silent while others worshipped empty shells. His flight into the wilderness wasn't escape. It was graduation into advanced spiritual education that required separation from human tradition and direct instruction from angelic teachers. Abraham studied the heavenly tablets like a cosmic law student, memorizing their contents, understanding their implications, preparing to implement divine principles in human society. His descendants weren't just inheriting land and blessing. They were receiving the responsibility of becoming heaven's legal representatives on earth. This is why Abraham could intercede for Sodom and Gomorrah, arguing legal points with the divine judge. He wasn't just pleading for mercy. He was applying cosmic law, using his knowledge of heavenly justice to advocate for earthly compassion, based on precise understanding of how divine judgment operates. The binding of Isaac takes on entirely new meaning when viewed through this lens. This wasn't just a test of Abraham's personal faith. It was cosmic drama, with spiritual forces watching to see if the patriarchal line would maintain its commitment to divine law, even when such obedience seemed to contradict divine promises. Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac proved that the heavenly education system was working perfectly. Humans could develop such complete trust in cosmic wisdom that they would obey even commands that appeared to violate their. Isaac's willing participation demonstrated that the next generation had also internalized the divine curriculum. The angel's intervention revealed that heaven's ultimate agenda was always life and blessing, but that such blessings could only flow through channels that had been purified by absolute obedience to cosmic law. Jacob's transformation from deceiver to Israel represents the internal struggle every student of divine law must endure. The battle between human will and cosmic purpose, between earthly ambition and heavenly calling, between personal. His new name marked his graduation from the heavenly education system that had been preparing him since birth to carry divine law into the next phase of human history. The 12 sons of Jacob weren't just tribal founders or family patriarchs. They were designated carriers of cosmic law into the future, each receiving specific aspects of the divine curriculum that would eventually be revealed through Moses. Their births weren't biological accidents, but cosmic appointments, timed according to sacred calendar principles to align with divine purpose for human development. This entire patriarchal period was preparation, a centuries-long educational experiment designed to prove that human beings could maintain their connection to cosmic law, even while living in societies dominated by ignorance and idolatry. Joseph's rise to power in Egypt represented the prophetic pattern of how divine law would ultimately triumph over human systems. Through wisdom rather than force, through divine favor rather than political manipulation, through But all of this was leading to the ultimate moment in human spiritual history, the public revelation of the complete cosmic constitution through Moses at Mount Sinai. Picture Mount Sinai not as the birthplace of divine law, but as its earthly publishing house. When Moses ascended that smoke-covered peak, he wasn't going to receive new information. He was being granted access to the cosmic archives that had governed righteous humans since Adam's first lesson in Eden. Every commandment that thundered from the mountain had already been written before the foundation of the world. Every statute delivered through Moses had already been observed by Noah, studied by Abraham, and lived by the Patriarchs. The Sinai revelation wasn't divine innovation. It was cosmic publication, the moment when heaven's constitutional law became Earth's public curriculum. But here's what transforms this from fascinating theology into life-changing revelation. If these laws were eternal rather than temporary, if they reflected the fundamental principles that maintain harmony between heaven and earth, then their purpose extends far beyond governing angels. They were, and are, universal operating instructions for human consciousness, seeking alignment with divine purpose. The thunder and lightning, the trumpet blasts and seismic tremors that accompanied the giving of the law weren't just supernatural special effects designed to impress ignorant nomads. They were reality itself responding to the moment when eternal principles took earthly form, when cosmic law became accessible to any human being willing to study and apply its transformative power. Moses spent 40 days and nights in that supernatural cloud, not just memorizing commandments, but comprehending cosmic purpose. He witnessed a complete timeline of human history written on heavenly tablets, understanding how every past event had prepared for this moment, and how every future development would flow from this revelation. When he descended from Sinai, Moses carried not just stone tablets inscribed with 10 commandments, but the complete blueprint for human transformation, the cosmic curriculum that could guide any individual or society from spiritual darkness into divine light. But according to Jubilees, even this ultimate revelation was delivered through angelic mediation. The same heavenly beings who had taught Adam, guided Noah, and instructed Abraham now served as public instructors for an entire nation. The cosmic education system that had operated privately through individual patriarchs was finally being institutionalized as humanity's permanent curriculum. Every word spoken on Sinai carried the authority of beings who had witnessed creation itself, who understood divine law from the inside, who had observed its implementation and violation throughout the long history of human spiritual development. And this brings us to the most practical and personally relevant aspect of everything we've discovered about the Book of Jubilees and its revolutionary understanding of time, law, and human destiny. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which preserved this text through 20 centuries of persecution and suppression, offers more than historical curiosity. Their continued observance of calendar principles that echo the sacred 364-day system provides a living laboratory for exploring what human consciousness might become when realigned with cosmic time. When you visit Ethiopian Orthodox churches today, you encounter something that has vanished from most religious experience. Worship that assumes heaven and earth share the same sacred schedule. Their prayers aren't just spiritual exercises. They're cosmic synchronization protocols that align human consciousness with angelic rhythms. But you don't need to travel to Ethiopia or convert to Orthodox Christianity to begin experimenting with the principles revealed in Jubilees. You can start tonight by paying attention to how different days feel spiritually regardless of what your calendar claims they should be. You can begin noticing natural rhythms that transcend artificial scheduling, creating space in your life for the kind of deep rest that synchronizes human consciousness with divine frequency. Every true Sabbath you observe, whether on Saturday, Sunday, or any day, when you genuinely cease from productive activity and align your spirit with cosmic rest, connects you to the same rhythm that Adam knew in Eden. Every moment when you choose sacred time over civil time, divine purpose over human pressure, cosmic alignment over cultural expectation, you participate in the ancient experiment that began with the first human breath. Consciousness learning to dance with eternity. The Book of Jubilees wasn't preserved in hidden monasteries just to satisfy academic curiosity about alternative biblical chronologies. It survived because it contains practical wisdom for recovering our species' lost connection to the cosmic order that governs all existence. But here's the question that will determine whether this knowledge transforms your life or remains merely interesting information. What if the complete cosmic curriculum contains instructions not just for calendar reform and ritual observance, but for technologies of consciousness? What if the Ethiopian preservation of Jubilees represents only the beginning of humanity's recovery of cosmic knowledge that was lost when we abandoned sacred time for civil convenience? The angels who taught Adam, guided Noah, instructed Abraham, and spoke through Moses are still present in our universe. They're still teaching, still offering cosmic education to anyone prepared to abandon human approximation for divine precision. The same heavenly tablets that governed creation from its beginning remain available to consciousness that has learned to read celestial script. Your calendar shapes your consciousness. Your consciousness shapes your reality. Your reality shapes your eternity. The question isn't whether cosmic time still governs the universe. It does, with the same precision that maintains planetary orbits and stellar life cycles. The question isn't whether angelic instruction remains available. It flows continuously through frequencies that human awareness can learn to detect and decode. The only question that matters is whether you're ready to abandon the temporal chaos that has imprisoned human consciousness for centuries and step into the sacred rhythm that connects your heartbeat to the pulse of creation itself. Tonight, when you check your phone for tomorrow's schedule, remember, you're not just organizing appointments. You're choosing which time system will govern your soul. You're deciding whether to continue living in exile from cosmic order or to begin the journey home to sacred time. The angels who taught the patriarchs are waiting in the silence between your scheduled obligations. The cosmic curriculum that shaped history's greatest souls pulses in the natural rhythms you've learned to ignore. The sacred calendar that could transform your experience of existence ticks forward with each breath you take, each heartbeat that connects you to the eternal dance of creation. What will you choose when morning comes? Will you wake to artificial time that serves human convenience, or to sacred time that serves divine purpose? The Book of Jubilees has preserved this choice for you across 20 centuries of suppression. The Ethiopian monks have guarded this wisdom through empires' rise and fall. The cosmic education system that began in Eden continues in the sacred moments you create, the holy rhythms you honor, the divine frequency you learn to receive. But here's the final question that will echo in your consciousness long after this revelation ends. If time itself is sacred, if calendar systems determine spiritual the angels are still teaching, the tablets are still writing, time itself is still holding its breath, waiting for humanity to remember the sacred calendar that could transform existence from chaos into cosmic dance. Your next breath occurs in sacred time. Your next heartbeat aligns with eternity's rhythm. Your next choice determines whether you'll continue living in temporal exile or step into the cosmic citizenship that has been your birthright since the first dawn broke over Eden's eastern hills. The Book of Jubilees ends where your real education begins.